Absolutely. Mr. Kurtz.
Here.
Mr. Strollo. Natalie, I'm here. Mr. Tedisco.
Here.
Mr. Dawson. Mr. Carderas. Mr. Linder.
Here.
Mr. Bowman.
Here.
Mr. Mercado. Mr. Anderson. Mr. Selmont. Ms. Downs. We have a quorum.
One of you guys can come up too. Whoever wants to, actually, Miss Downs, you want to come up too. I don't know does anyone know if John's coming? Okay. If he shows up, then we'll just switch it. Okay, will everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order of business tonight is the zone check exchange petition of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the chickens. Can we hear the call, please?
The continuation of the public hearing for the zone text change petition of the Planning and Zoning Commission, 84 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, to amend Section 30, Schedule A, Paragraph 24C, chickens. Existing and proposed text available for review in the Planning and Zoning, in the Planning Office and on the town website.
Okay, thank you. All right, so our chicken regulations, obviously we heard from the public last meeting. We will hear if they have any more comment this meeting too. And commission members, this is our chance to, I know there's a lot of talk about a couple changes we might have wanted to make. Is there anyone that wants to throw anything out there or talk about it or whatever? Mr. Mercado is the first hand I saw.
Yeah, so I went back through my notes and something we requested to be changed in here. I think a lot of us were in agreement with it, is to change that 125 feet to 65 feet. It made more sense for that quarter acre land. And I think we also spoke about removing the in the rear yard so that will take care of anything, whether it's in the front, side, back. I mean, most people, they're probably not going to put it in the front yard. I don't think we should be telling them that they can't. There might be some situations where the house is located on an angle or on a side lot. I would ask that we remove the rear yard and change the 125 feet to 65, please.
And just because also in that it was a 35-foot lot line. So what, or not lot line,
Well, it was 65 from a neighboring residence.
so that means eliminate the 35 feet.
I think we did the math, right? It was the size of the 200 feet minus the 35 and the 65 would let them put it on the house off to one side, not have to be dead center. So I think the 35 stayed, if I remember, and then the 125 moved down to 65 or 60, so that that whatever it is, the coop doesn't have to be dead smack in the middle of the house. It could be off to one side.
Just so you know, if I may. The existing regulation says, the existing reg says all chickens must be kept in a building or enclosure located in the rear yard. You have that regulation now. That it is worked. It is functioning.
I'm looking to remove it.
Mr. Kurtz.
Mr. Bowman. Mr. Bowman.
In doing the math, especially on a half-acre lot, if the lot is 100 by 200, which is a builder's half acre, and the house is 70 by 30, which is your standard ranch, actually your standard ranch is probably 72 by 28, so I'm rounding it off a little bit, and you have 12.5-foot sidelines, you really only have 15-foot sidelines, and your front line is 40 feet. If you're keeping it 125 feet back, in an enclosure, are you saying an enclosure is the chicken coop itself? Or are you saying the enclosure is the chicken coop and the run? Because if it's a chicken coop and the run where the chickens have the ability to roam free, then you're limiting yourself to a very, very small space, especially with a 35-foot sideline. I mean, it's almost no space at all in an R20 zone. So, you know, that should certainly be, in my opinion, adjusted. And, you know, again, what size chicken coop are we talking about? Are we talking about a structure that is going to need a zoning permit? Or are we talking about a structure who in our codes today, a 12 by 12 structure, if I'm not mistaken, does not need a zoning permit. It just needs a building permit. And if you're talking about something less than 144 square feet, I don't see the necessity for a 35-foot sideline, because someone could put a storage shed right on the property line without any, you know, any problems whatsoever. You know, I've had questions about this. I'd really, you know, like to get this thing put to bed sooner or later. And I think we need to adjust the distance from a sideline and the distance from neighboring residents, especially in a half acre zone. When you get to a 1 acre zone, you got 200 by 200 with, I think a 1 acre zone is a 25-foot sideline. You have more ability to get something in. But the thing that bothers me the most is D. I think that more than 12 chickens on 3 acres, and that should be the end of it. That you shouldn't, at that point, have to worry about sidelines or rear lines or front lines or any other lines. And that's just my opinion. 3 acres is considered a farm. It's always been considered a farm in Cheshire. All I hear is Cheshire is an agrarian society. They want to be a farming community, and yet we sit here and we restrict the ability of what has always been considered and always been the right to be a farm over 3 acres. So I'd like to see 12 removed. I have no problem with roosters, peacocks, and male turkeys on less than 3 acres. I have, you know, I think Lou had a good point on maybe 6 chickens, but, you know, Bill had said that, you know, he didn't want to be the chicken police and go out and have to count the chickens, which I do understand. And we're trying to accommodate people on smaller lots. So I think we're almost there. I just think this thing has to be tweaked a little bit. You know, I think taking it down to 65 feet, maybe we could go 75 feet and compromise a little bit. 35 feet from a sideline, I think is going to be too much. You know, it's just too much. And D, I'd like to see anything over 3 acres just be by matter of right. But those are my concerns. Thank you.
So if you did, just so I know, if you did remove D, the only thing that you're really taking away from that is this: if we got rid of the lot line, how many feet from a lot line, and we put in, say, 75 feet from a residence. If you did eliminate D, or not, you know, they didn't have to follow this stuff. That's the only thing they really wouldn't have to follow is the 75 feet. So
Anything over 3 acres would happen.
but it still should be the 75 feet from a residence.
Yes. Oh, I agree. I agree with that.
So I don't think it matters whether that over the 3 acres, you know, 12 chickens require 3 acres. It doesn't, it just says that you need 3 acres to have 12 chickens, but it's not restricting you from anything. I don't think any of this restricts you from anything.
Well, the 35 feet from a sideline,
I think
we're
if we
gonna
went
eliminate
this-
that.
I think what we're trying to say is if we go to the 75 feet from a residential, and correct me if I'm wrong.
I would
then the
agree. If you-
35 feet is gone.
Yeah, drop the 35 and go to
And just stay to
75.
75 feet from a residence. Now,
Yep.
I don't know, you know, with sheds or structures, I mean, is there anything, I think I'd give this to you, Bill. Do we have to be 2 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet? Is there something that we have to, that has to be in there? So you don't build right on the property line. That was one of my concerns.
Why would you go less than your, for a small shed, as Matt talked about, a 12 by 12 shed?
What is that at?
5 feet.
So 5 feet.
That's the least restrictive, and I don't think you should go beyond that.
So we could change the 35 to 5
Yeah, by the way, you know that the existing setback is 50 feet. You do know that, right? I just want to make
for
sure.
the chickens,
The
yes.
existing setback for enclosures and, you know, chicken coops and fences is 50 feet. This regulation lowers that to 35 feet, just so you know. Okay, we're not now putting a new requirement on 35 feet. It's already 50 feet.
No, I just think we're trying to accommodate the
Yeah.
20,000
Yeah.
square foot lots.
Yeah.
Where-
As long as we've got this open.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
So would we be out of our way to say 5 feet from any lot line and 75 feet from any
Sure, yeah, you can do
residence?
that. Do-
You know, that accommodates and makes it a lot easier for
Yeah.
a 20,000
Yeah.
square foot lot to be able to do this.
Sure.
But I think you still need to have D there because you want to make sure they have more than 3 acres to have more than 12 chickens. So D has to stay. That's one, we don't want to get rid of that. And as far as your comment about in the front
rear?
yards,
Getting rid of in the rear yard.
do you really want it in the
I
front?
mean, are
yard?
people really going to do that? Are you?
As a matter of fact, some of our violations now, right now that we have ongoing enforcement actions are people with chicken coops in the front yard who never bothered to ask where they could put them. So that, it's an issue. I mean, what you're recommending there by doing that is allowing a residential or an accessory use to residential, which probably belongs in the backyard, you're enabling it in the front yard. And I'm not sure why you want to do that.
Is this coming complaints from neighbors or is
Yeah,
this from?
that's a lot of it gets, sure. It's, we don't like go on zoning patrol. Sometimes we do, but generally those kind of complaints come from neighbors who don't particularly like in their neighborhood for various reasons to have people with chicken coops in the front yard. So by you changing that, you will enable that, and I'm not exactly sure what the rationale is for that, so. But I'm telling you, we do have enforcement actions
I wanna go
on its
to
very
Lou,
matter right now,
because
so.
I went to Matt. I'm gonna go to Natalie and then I'm gonna go to Lou.
I agree with leaving D in there because when I read B, no more than 12 chickens shall be kept on the lot. A is 20,000 square feet, so leaving that more than 12 chickens requires 3 acres. I'm okay with that. I think it delineates between the smaller properties and the larger properties. I would be okay with the 5 feet to be consistent in our regulations with the 12 by 12 sheds. I kind of agree. I don't think that I'd want this in the front yard. I'd like to keep it in the rear yard. So that's what I would recommend.
Mr. Tedesco.
Yeah, I think it should be in the rear yard. I don't think I would vote for it. I would take it out.
I don't think, is your mic on?
I think this should be in a rear yard.
How about side yard?
I'm trying to imagine where it would go in a side yard. I mean, most houses have relatively small side yards, I think. I think it should be behind the house. So that's just my opinion. I'm only one person with one vote. I did raise the idea of a smaller number of chickens. I'm kind of off that now. Since they do have to be kept in an enclosure, they're really not going to be wandering around the whole yard. So whether it's 12 or 6, I think 12 is fine for all of them for that reason. It seems to me that there should be some kind of sideline setback on this. I don't agree with 5 feet. 35 feet, I suppose if you had a 100 by 200 lot, which I think I lived on one once, so that gives you 30 feet in the middle of your yard, I guess, with a 35-yard setback. That doesn't really offend me, frankly. I mean, if you want to make it 25 feet, I suppose, and have a 50-foot area in the middle of your yard, I could live with that, I suppose. I don't think it should be right up 5 feet from the property line. We're talking about a fairly significant change for some people probably. We're having barnyard animals now in residential areas where they weren't before. Neighbors may or may not find this offensive, and to some extent, then keeping a setback gives them some protection. I originally thought that 125 feet was a little bit too far, and it may preclude people from doing it. I thought coming down to 100, 65 seems to be kind of small, but there is some number that I guess I could be satisfied with. Do other people think that 100 feet from a residence will preclude too many people from being able to have this? Matt was explaining before, if you have a 40-yard front yard setback, a 30-foot house, that's 70 feet. You have a 200-foot yard. You've got 130 feet to work with in the back. 125 really puts you right up against your back area, which probably doesn't work. So 100 feet, 80 feet, 75 feet may be okay. I guess my point is I think there should be some reasonable side yard setback. It could be 25, I guess, even 20 or 25 feet instead of 35 feet. And somewhere between 75, around 75 feet, I guess, 80 feet from a residence. I guess, again, I'm trying to avoid people being precluded from having them after we pass this. But I still want to protect the neighbors, so just my thoughts.
Mr. Strollo.
I would like to add a F and limit the coop size to 8 by 8 and 8 foot tall. Because my feeling is that if you don't limit the coop size, somebody's going to build a chicken Hilton, and it's going to be huge because they want to be cool because they want the nicest coop around. So I'm thinking that if we downsize that, I'm not really worried about the chickens as far as the house they're going to be living in. That it could be obscene to the neighbor. So that's my thing.
Mr. Sh- yeah, Mr. Strollo, I see what you're saying there. So 8 by 8, anything over 12 by 12 is going to require a permit anyways.
I know, so they would need it.
So
They wouldn't
they couldn't
need-
build a Hilton
Yeah,
without the permit.
yeah, they wouldn't. Yeah, because that's what I'm afraid of. If you don't limit the size of the coop, I'm saying the size of the coop being 8 by 8 for 12 chickens. That's a good size. You know, not to build a 12 by 12 structure and then it's 12 feet high and they're doing all fun stuff. You don't know. You're opening it up. You're not limiting the structure, and that's, I think, a limitation that should be something to look at.
The only
But they can build
limitation
it-
I had was for a zoning permit, and 12 by 12 or less doesn't require a zoning permit. You're not going to get a chicken coop that's 12 feet high because you're not going to be able to heat it. Don't forget what you're trying to do. There's no artificial heat in a chicken coop. It's the heat of the chickens themselves that keep that coop warm. So you're not going to have a 12-foot, you're not going to have an 8-foot. You're going to have a smaller or lower. If you've seen a lot of the coops that are built for 12 chickens or less, they're probably 5 by 10, about 3 feet high. That's all they are. And I'm just trying to
Well,
eliminate
in
people.
06, before my father was dying of cancer, he got into chickens because I don't know what he was, because of the natural eggs. And he built a 14 by 10 shed. And then he had heat in it with lamps. That's what he used, lamps. He even had cameras in there to monitor the chickens at night. So he had chicken TV, he had a chicken Hilton. He had it all going on. I mean, he was on 3 acres, but I'm just saying is that now, everybody in the neighborhood starts getting coops, right? And then the next guy is building one bigger, one bigger. I'm just being, what if that happens? I'm like, limited in the size. I don't know. I think it would just be a little limitation on the size of the coop would be something we should look into, other than limiting the chickens, because it's where they're going to
If
live.
you're limited to 12 by 12, anything over that's got to have
Yeah,
a
I know, but
permit anyway, so they'd have to come in, they'd have to get a zoning permit. That's what I'm saying. If you need a zoning.
we're not limiting the height. Could we limit?
Again, I'm going to tell you,
Well,
my
I'm just
father
saying.
raised chickens. I grew up next to chicken coops. They're not going to be high. You're taking the heat of the chickens to keep them warm. If you put a lamp in there, a lamp's not going to heat a 14-foot high.
People are creative in this town. They might make one that looks like the Congregational Church with the peak. You don't know.
But they could build a shed the same way. I just don't really understand why that's not. I think we're getting a little too far into this. This is a little ridiculous. Mr. Kadesh.
Is the proposal that requires them to be, are they required to be in a coop, or they're just required to have a coop?
It doesn't require them to have a coop. It requires them to be in an enclosure, however, fenced area. The coop is optional for that.
But it has to be
It
in an
says,
enclosed area.
it says all chickens must be kept in a building or enclosure, the same as the existing regulation reads. All chickens must be kept in a building or enclosure located in a rear yard with no less than what we're proposed is 35 feet from any lot line and 36, and we propose 125 feet from any neighboring residence.
I would require that they have a building or enclosure to use, but then not to be kept in it. I mean, part of the reason why I like the regulation, or what we wanted to do, was that people could have free range chickens. And one of the advantages of having chickens in your yard walking around is that they eat ticks. and they eat bugs and grubs in there. And I would like the people to have the possibility of having free range chickens on their yard.
But they also, they have to have an area for them
So
to
they have to
go.
have, would have to have an enclosure for them to go at night and other places.
Does this regulation preclude, like, not allow them to let them roam around their house during the day?
You gotta have a fence. At a minimum, you gotta have a fence. That's what this regulation requires. At a minimum, you gotta have a fence. It shouldn't be that, it's like any other animal. You can't have a dog that runs free from your yard either. So it was never intended to allow chickens to run, let them out the back door, and hopefully they come back at night. That's not what this regulation intends.
How high is the fence gonna be? Chickens can go up pretty high.
Oh, God.
Usually, if you're
Oh,
gonna have a
it's
fence, you're gonna have,
You
you're
never
gonna,
had a chicken. It's
you're gonna have an
quite obvious
enclosure
that.
too. There's gonna be, because you don't want the other animals getting in to get to the chickens. So,
It will.
Fences are 6 foot high. An 8 foot high fence would be permitted with a building permit. They need a building permit to put an 8 foot high fence up.
so anything over 8 feet, they would have to have a building permit, and anything bigger than 12 by 12, they'd have to have a
Yeah,
building permit.
building permit. You need a building permit for the fence
So-
because of wind loads, et cetera.
Yeah, so we're not gonna get a crazy chicken coop built in these areas without the proper permits being done. What's the feeling? Can we come to some kind of agreement tonight on this and write something here? And get
Hey,
this,
real quick. We did give you an amended version that I made a mistake on, of course. The first line is chickens as an accessory use on properties used for, it should say residential purposes, subject to the following, okay?
that's what we have, that's what we had up here.
Yeah,
Everyone
the
had that
language
up
is
there.
new on accessory, and the last word in that first sentence in the change should be purposes, used for residential purposes.
That took care of the farm question we
Yeah,
had last.
Right,
week. Yeah.
and chickens are allowed by right in every district, or pardon me, yeah, would be allowed by right in every district. And you can have residences in every district that were built before zoning. You have residences in industrial districts, you have residences in commercial districts. And this would enable anybody in any district to have use chickens as an accessory use for their residential use of the property.
EJ,
Yes,
I think we can agree on A and B. Probably A, B, and C,
and why
without
not
any
D?
changes.
Why not D?
Why not D? Because I think on more than 3 acres, there shouldn't be any regulations.
But that's not how it's written. It's written, if you want to have more than 12 chickens, you need to have 3
I'd like to
acres or more.
remove D completely. And say something to the effect
So-
on more than 3 acres, it's considered a farm and therefore,
You can't.
Don't put that
You
language
can't.
here.
The
Don't
farm
put
is
the-
not, is a residential,
Don't put the farm language in here.
I'm not trying to put a language in, I'm trying to come a consensus of the commission. That's what I'm trying to
A
do.
farm is a distinct use in the regulations. This is not meant to be a farm. It's chickens as an accessory use on properties used for residential purposes. And what this says is if you want to have more than 12 chickens, then you need 3 or more acres. That's what it says. It doesn't restrict anybody. It says if you want to have 13 chickens, you'd have to have 3 acres. That's all it says.
and if you agree with B, you want to see D in there.
Okay, so, all right, so I'll agree with D.
Okay, thank you. So now, can we come to together, us, before we go to the public, on something in E, which would be how close to a lot line and how many feet from another residence we want to have, Mr. Vitale?
Okay, again, I'm just going to recommend that we go with the 5 feet from the from the property line, just like if it's 12 by 12 shed for consistency in the regulations. Keep the rear yard and go to 75 feet from any neighboring residences. Take a vote and move on.
Does anyone else want to speak to any of the
I
just in
quit,
E?
I missed how many feet from a residence?
75
75.
75, okay.
and 5 feet from the property line.
And 5 feet from a property line. Okay.
Mr.
Do we
Mercado?
have any houses where the rear is actually on a street and can be considered viewed? That this would be an issue where a side would be better for them? You know, instead of saying rear yard, is it not on the side of the building that's facing a street type of deal? So that you're not seeing it in the neighborhood?
But again, what I was just saying, if you have a corner lot, you're abutting
Two
two
front yards.
streets, so you're going to
Yeah.
Say you can't have it.
You
on
got
the
real
lot.
problems on a corner lot.
Yeah, you can't do that.
See, I like side or rear, keep them out of the front, I understand that. But if they've got room on the side to stay the 5 feet and stay the 75 feet from a residence, I don't think that's a problem. I just don't see the problem.
What about the point of just being made about the corner lot? Someone lives on a corner lot.
A corner lot, in our regulation, a corner lot, there's frontage on 2 roads. You've got to meet the front line setbacks on 2 roads.
Still have, the corner lots still have side and rear yards. They have 2 front yards, but they also have a side yard and they have a rear yard.
So it wouldn't affect a corner lot if we said,
5 feet from
No.
a side yard.
if we used, instead
Well,
of
it
just
means,
saying
you
rear
know-
lot or side lot.
Remember, when you buy a corner lot, you're accepting the fact that you have 2
Fronts.
front yards. That means you're accepting the limitation that 2 front yards, which are deeper setbacks, provides. That means you are willing to live there. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. That means they have a side yard and a rear yard, but 2 front yards. And if they want to have chickens, then they can do that in accordance with this regulation. So-
What's the rear yard on a corner lot?
The yards are dedicated, so to speak, sometimes when the subdivision comes in and sometimes when a building permit is issued, and then they make a decision on which is the front and which is the rear based on which way they want the house to face. So that's what we do. We always go back and see how it was originally proposed. Sometimes the selection is made when they subdivide the property. The developer wants to have a certain orientation on the house to the street, so they'll make one side, one rear, so.
So that rear would fit under here, even though it looks
Yeah.
like a side from one of the roads.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the difference in allowing it on the side of a house? It's the same thing.
I would probably go along with the rear and side yard.
Yeah.
I don't see an issue. I don't like the front yard, I will say that, but
I can agree with that.
I don't see an issue with
Okay,
with
so
my
then
voice.
So E then would read, all chickens must be kept in a building or enclosure located in a side or rear yard and no less than 5 feet from any lot line and at least 75 feet
From a
from a
neighboring
neighboring
residence.
residence.
I would vote for that.
I don't have a problem with that. Now, Sean had mentioned F. Can we just say that no coops larger than 144 square feet on less than 3 acres? I'm just asking, Bill. I don't want to be shot. I just want to.
I can't, but
How you gonna?
my frustration is we had weeks to talk about this stuff, weeks. And it's like, now you want to, what about this? I can't, why do you want to do that? My question to you is, why do you want to do that?
Because Sean mentioned it. That's all I'm
But,
trying to,
okay.
we're trying to come to a consensus.
Yeah, I
here.
got it. But, but that's what, we had weeks on this.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Linder.
my wife just texted me that unfortunately, this meeting is not being televised. Yeah, but I have to say, I have never heard such a ridiculous conversation on such a minor topic in my life. Do you know that we're spending more time on this than maybe we did for that 55-plus development that went in on Wallingford Road? I mean, I hate to say this, but this is embarrassing. We're spending all this time on chickens. I think we should cut off the discussion, send it back to the staff, have the staff rewrite the regulation, and then maybe we can boil it down to something that you could vote on.
I was trying to
But
boil
you
it down right now.
guys, you guys are,
Listen, Gil, I'm with you. I'm trying to boil
I
it
mean,
down right
this is the
now.
most, I'm embarrassed to be sitting here listening to this gibberish. This is gibberish going on here.
Okay,
I'm sorry to say that.
okay, thank
Sorry
you.
to hear it.
All right. Anyone else want to chime in on what we have here, A through E, before I go to the public to ask if anyone wants to speak?
Yeah,
Mr. Gutierrez.
I would say, I would change that be kept in a building, have access to a building enclosure.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
On number E, it says where it says kept in a building, I would change that to have access. people want to let their chickens out during the day to eat the grubs in the yard, they should be able to do that.
First of all, I want to make sure you understand, the regulation doesn't say they have to be kept in a building. They have to be kept in a building or enclosure. So if there's a building in the yard, the building would be somewhere inside the enclosure. The enclosure is really the key word. So that the chickens don't have free reign to run across boundary lines and so forth. There's some type of enclosure under E to keep the chickens. And it permits them to have a building. It doesn't require them to have a building. It permits that, okay? But the enclosure really is the key word. There's got to be something to keep the chickens within some reasonable area that the property owner decides to make sure it doesn't run across boundary lines. They could make the whole yard. They could put an enclosure. So, but the building is, or the enclosure really is the key word. And how far you want to make that from the boundary line is really up to you. We propose 35 feet. You want to modify it to 5, that's fine. That means it can be somewhere in the rear yard. There's no area of it. So.
Okay, public, anyone from the public wishing to speak on this regulation? I'll go right back to you in a second. Okay, no one. All right, so can we agree on something here?
I don't think we can agree on anything here. I think we should send it back to the staff, have the staff summarize it and resubmit it to us so that we can.
But Gil, that's what Earl's trying to do right now. Earl's trying to do
Trying to-
exactly what you're saying, but he's
But
doing
without
it
the
right
staff,
now.
why send it back to staff?
I don't necessarily agree with it,
Because to keep going further, we're gonna have 17 points. We're gonna have to discuss 17 points of this thing. It's gonna take another half an hour or another hour.
I would like to,
Let's cut it off and send it back to the staff and let them summarize it for us.
I wanted to vote on this tonight. I would like to have this done. If we can come to some kind of agreement and vote on this tonight. That's my intention. Mr. Bowman.
I would like to make a motion.
You're still
Yeah,
in
we
there.
you can't make a motion.
Chickens and accessory use, property used for residential purposes, subject to the following. The lot line should contain a minimum of 20,000 square feet. No more than 12 chickens should be kept on a lot. Roosters, peacocks, and male turkeys are prohibited on lots less than 3 acres. More than 12 chickens require 3 acres. All chickens must be kept in a building or enclosure located in a side or rear yard and no less than 5 feet from any lot line and at least 75 feet from every residence. Sean, how bad do you want F?
Second that.
That's my motion.
All right, well, this isn't a motion, but
You're in a
can
public
we
hearing.
agree? I know, I understand.
Yeah.
Can we agree that that is what we will go forward on and I'd like to vote on
You need a
tonight?
second.
No, you can't do it.
Not
We're
a
in a
motion.
public hearing. We're just trying to decide whether this is it. That happens in the meeting. We can change all these things in our next meeting, but can I agree? Yes,
Clarification.
yes.
What Mr. Bowman just cited is the proposed zone change.
Yes.
that is being
Yes.
Presented for the regular meeting vote later in the meeting.
Yes.
I would vote for this.
I would vote for that.
Okay. Can we come to a consensus that that's the way I'd like to move forward with it? And we'll go on tonight? Okay. Public, one last time. Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing. All right, moving on, zone text change petition to Planning and Zoning Commission to amend section 48 interchange zone regulation, storage warehouses, distribution facilities incidental to main use in IC zone. Can we hear the call for that, please?
The continuation of the public hearing for zone text change petition of the Planning and Zoning Commission, 84 South Main Street, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, to amend section 48 interchange zone regarding storage, warehouses, and distribution centers with trucking facilities incidental to the main use in the interchange zone. Existing and proposed text available for review in the planning office and on the town website.
Okay, thank you. This was being held open because
Regional.
we're waiting for regionals.
I do have a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, please.
This is dated October 4th, 2021. The Planning and Zoning Commission, the Town of Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission proposing a zone text change to the Cheshire zoning regulations, amendment section 48, interchange zone regs, a new section 48.2H, amendment of section 48.4, and repeal of existing section 48.2H. This is from the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, Regional Planning Commission representatives. Staff recommendation states that staff finds this proposed zoning regulation text amendments to be not regionally significant and have no intermunicipal impacts. And that's all that we got, Mr. Chairman, from the RPAs.
Thank you. Commission members, I think we were all good with this last time. I don't think we need to go into any discussion. Public, anyone from the public wishing to speak on this? Seeing none, I'm going to close this public hearing. We're going to take number 3 and 4 together, which is Kensett Square. Can we
Mr.
hear the call
Chairman.
for that, please? Yeah, Ed, you're going to
I'm
recuse
going to
yourself.
recuse myself.
Mr. Salma, you want to come up? There wasn't. John walked in. Or, Mrs. Downs, Miss Downs, you can come up. I'm sorry. I should have called you up because you didn't come up before. So either one of you guys come to the conclusion. I don't care who it is. Just come on up.
Okay. The continuation of the public hearing for the earth removal, filling, and regrading permit of Kensett Square LLC, care of Anthony J. Fazzone Esquire, Fazzone, Ryan, and Machuti LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410. Property located at South Main Street and Wallingford Road is generally shown on Assessor's Map 64, lot number 257-1, map 64, lot number 259, and map 64, lot number 263 in the Special Development District and C1 zones. The continuation of the public hearing for the combined application of zone change to an approval as a special development district and approval of special design project of Kensett Square LLC, property located at 200 Old Town Road, 168 South Main Street, and 29 Wallingford Road, care of Anthony J. Fazzone Esquire, Fazzone, Ryan, and Machuti LLC, 2 Town Center, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 1, map 64, lot 257-1, map 64, lot 259 in the Special Development District, and map 64, lot number 263 in the C1 zone.
Thank you. And representing the applicant.
For the record, Anthony Fazzone. John. For the record, my name is Anthony Fazzone. I'm an attorney here in Cheshire, representing the applicant. We had gone through most of our presentation at the previous public hearing. The hearing was held open for the purposes of waiting for the Wetlands Commission. The Wetlands Commission has acted and I believe the record shows the report of the Wetlands Commission. And there are a couple of minor things to go over with respect to the plans, and Ryan McAvoy is going to do that.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Ryan McAvoy. I'm a licensed professional engineer in Connecticut with SLR. And the Wetlands Commission approved the application with some minor revisions to the plan that include a small wetland creation area on the east side of the property. Just adjacent to the abutting property in the on-site wetland system, has no bearing at all whatsoever on the placement of buildings, placement of parking, placement of other site amenities. So, and also we do have in front of you an application for the earth removal, filling, or regrading, including with that, I believe, a waiver of section 9 with respect to grading adjacent to or within 50 feet of properties. And we do have some limited grading in order to construct parking on the far east side of the lot. We are not excavating. Your regulations specifically have concern about excavation adjacent to nearby properties. We are filling slightly in the order of magnitude of a couple feet. So we don't really have any excavation that would potentially undermine or cause any damage or disruption to adjacent properties. And beyond that, as I mentioned before, all the other site plan elements are identical from what was proposed at the previous public hearing. So unless there's any questions of the commission or the public, I think that summarizes our position.
Thank you. Mr. Talley, I see you with a question.
One of the questions I asked last time, and I forget whether it was going to be Mr. Volker or Mr. Fazone looking into it, about the possibility of there being an easement for an old road. Everybody said they didn't think that existed, but you said you check on it.
No, there's no formal easement. There has been discussions over the years about potential for doing that. Very, very difficult to do, but there is no formal easement for any public road in the back.
Okay, thanks for
It's really a
confirming that.
matter of getting cooperation, collaboration, interest, but to do that, but there is no formal easement for the construction of a road.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commission members, questions on this? Okay. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this? Okay, with nothing else going forward, I'm going to close this public hearing. Thank you. Or, I'm sorry, Mr. Fazone, you all set? Yeah. I did, okay. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing. Move Mr. Kaderis. Second by Mr. Natale. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, give me a sec here. Made a mess today. Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for Monday, October 25th, 2021. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes of our public hearing and special meeting from October 13th, 2021?
Motion to approve both sets of minutes.
Move Mr. Natale, seconded by anyone? Ms. Downs, thank you. Any discussion, corrections, anything in the minutes? Okay. Mr. Bowman, are you returning? Mr. Strollo, are you returning? What's going on here? Okay. Well, we're voting, so I need to. And you know what? Can I get a different, a second on that, because she's actually down. So the second will be Mr. Mercado on that. I'm sorry if she's not sitting here. So yeah, I corrected myself before you did. I feel good tonight. All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? One abstaining. Motion carries 8-0-1 with Mr. Carderas abstaining. Yes. Okay, communications. We have a letter from Phil Bowman dated 10/18/21, 90-day extension. For Brewer and
Mr.
Estate.
Chairman, I'm not leaving. I'm going to sit
Yes,
here.
yeah. All right, so Ms. Downs, you're from that position in on this.
We have a motion on this, Mr. Chairman.
I think we can hear it. Yes.
Request for 90-day filing extension, Brewerton Estates, Jarvis Street. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission hereby grant a 90-day extension to file the approved subdivision map for Brewerton Estates on the land records. The commission notes that this is the second extension permitted under the Connecticut General Statutes that will expire on February 11th, 2022.
Move staff's wording.
Move Mr. Talley, second by Mr. Dawson. Discussion on this motion. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimous. I'm going to jump ahead here. I'm going to put number 2 towards the end. Discussion on the accessory apartment. So let's go to unfinished business. Is everyone prepared to vote on this chicken thing that we just came through?
Yes.
I believe everyone is. All right, so let's talk about the changes, because you want to read the changes that you read in the public hearing?
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Actually, the motion is, with the motion, it considers this though,
Motion, Mr.
right?
Chairman. Yeah, I have a motion. I'm reading to the record, please. And I understand. I'll read your changes because I copied them all. Okay? I'll read, I have a motion and I'll read exactly what you said. Okay? So, the motion reads as follows, Mr. Chairman. The zone text changed by the Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission to amend Section 30, Schedule A, Item 24C. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission find the proposed amendments to Section 30, Schedule A, the Cheshire zoning regulations regarding keeping of chickens as an accessory use as amended through October 25th, 2000, boy, pardon my typing wasn't too good today, 2021. And let me read the amendments, Mr. Chairman, as
Sure.
follows.
Sure.
Chickens as an accessory use on properties used for residential purposes, subject to the following. The lot shall contain a minimum of 20,000 square feet. No more than 12 chickens shall be kept on the lot. Roosters, peacocks, and male turkeys are prohibited on lots less than 3 acres. More than 12 chickens requires 3 acres. All chickens must be kept in a building or enclosure located in a rear yard and no less than 5 feet from any lot line and at least 75 feet from any neighboring residences.
You
Side
missed the
yard,
side
yeah,
yard.
Oh,
Side
pardon me, a
yard.
side or rear yard, pardon me, yeah, in a
Side
side,
or
in
rear
a
yard.
side or rear yard and no, right. And no less than 35 feet from any lot line and at least 75 feet from any neighboring residences.
Okay.
Move stuff
Moved
forward.
by Mr. Ricardo, second
Second.
by Mr. Bowman. Okay,
Hold
discussion on this motion.
Wait, I had to read a little more on the motion, just let me finish, hold it.
You said 35 feet, or I thought it was 5 feet from any lot.
I
said
said
5 feet.
5
He
feet
said
from
5.
any lot
Okay.
line and 75 feet from any neighboring residence.
Oh, you
wait,
gotta do the end.
Yeah,
I'm
the
sorry.
motion, the commission finds these amendments are not in conflict with 2016 Plan of Conservation and Development. The effective date of this is November 13th, 2021 at 12:01 a.m.
Okay.
May I say something? Mr. Bowman originally was the maker of that motion, or he intended to be, and Mr. Volker read it into the record. He was going to read it.
Okay, so
So I'm
I'll
just
second
trying to
it.
make clear.
I move it.
Moved by Mr. Bowman, seconded by Mr. Ricardo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion on this motion. Mr. Tedesco.
Yeah, I'm going to just make 2 comments. One is, I thought that our discussion leading up to this was an interesting discussion. I thought it was a worthwhile discussion. To me, it reflected a number of people trying to come up with what they believe is a proper solution and to give people in town a right that they don't have right now. And it took some work. I'm going to vote no on it because I disagree with the sideline, the side yard, and the lack of a sideline variance. But nevertheless, I thought the discussion was perfectly appropriate and proper discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Linder.
Well, first of all, let me just preface my remarks by saying that with all due respects to the young lady who brought this issue forward to the commission, in my opinion, this issue should never have even been brought forward or put on our agenda. It just seems to be, let me just say that putting chickens on half-acre lots is really just a bad idea. I'll use my neighborhood as an example. I live in a cluster zone development of half-acre lots. We have 124 houses. And think about having chickens, of having 6 chickens on 124 lots. Or let me say 12 chickens, I'm sorry, 12 chickens on 124 lots. Now, there's no law stopping every one of these homeowners from putting chickens on these lots. It makes no sense. There's going to be a lot of unintended consequences. There hasn't been much discussion about hawks or coyotes. It just doesn't make any sense, and I think it's just not appropriate for the town of Cheshire. So because of that, I'm going to vote no on it. Thank you.
Mr. Natale.
I couldn't disagree more. I think that this is appropriate. I think that from what we've seen from other towns with the research that staff did, it's in line with what other towns. Cheshire's not different. We should allow our citizens the same rights that other towns have. As far as the setback, I agree with the 5-foot setback, just like if it was a shed. I agree with the 75 feet away from a residence. And I will say to Gracie Thomas, thank you for bringing it forward. I'm hoping that we have the votes to get this done tonight, put it to bed, and let some of our neighbors do something they've been asking for a long time.
Mr. Bowman.
I would like to thank you for bringing this forward. The first poster up there of someone standing up and speaking at a public forum had to be frightening for you to do, and to come before us with a proposal like this is a major undertaking. And I would really like to thank you for doing that and thanking everyone who came here and spoke for this. It's true Americanism, and thank you for that. I will be voting for this. I think we've come to a good consensus of what is necessary. And I really thank everyone for their comments and for their participation, and everyone's comments are important. And thank you very much.
Cazares.
Just for point of clarification, they specifically mention chickens are permitted, peacocks and tom turkeys are prohibited. By implication, are we allowing peahens and are we allowing female turkeys?
By implication, I think that's correct.
Okay.
So it's a funny thing about men, no matter what we are, we make a lot of noise.
Yeah, that's case. I just wanted the clarification. I intend to be voting for it.
Sorry, Mr. Tedesco.
Yeah, for the reasons I expressed, I'm not going to vote for it, but it seems to me that the way this is written, if you really think that you could have, it doesn't say turkeys, it says chickens. And so female turkeys, I don't think are allowable under this. If you want to do that, that's fine, I suppose. But it seems to me that you would say that, wouldn't you? Because it sounds silly. A chicken is not a turkey.
It's a
turkey
chicken.
is-
Yeah, I like that. We're going to leave that there. It's chicken. Mr. Mercado.
Yeah, Gracie, thank you for bringing this up. The reason we're voted and we sit on this board is to listen to people in our towns to bring up these kind of ideas. That's what we're here. So we talked about, we had good conversation. We came up with, I think, is a great idea and how to set this forward and with the sidelines and being able to put them on the side of our house. So thank you.
Okay. I would also like to thank everybody. This was, yes, a lot of fun. It took a long time to get here. We are here. I will be voting in favor of it. I like the way everyone came together tonight, and we could actually get this done for having chickens in the residential used properties that are used for residential. So all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. And anyone abstaining? Motion carries 7-2. Thank you. What the heck did I do with my? Okay, move. Could we hear the motion for the
Yes.
planning and zoning
Zone
interchange?
text changed by the
Zone.
Cheshire Plains Zoning Commission to amend section 48, interchange zone regulations to create new section 48.2H and amend section 48.4B and repeal section 48.2.2B2. The Cheshire Plains Zoning Commission hereby approved the proposed amendments to section 48 of the Cheshire zoning regulations to create new section 48.2H, amend section 48.4B, and repeal section 48.2B as the commission wishes to implement the recommendations of the Arnett Muldrow report commissioned by the Economic Development Commission in 2017, and to provide for multiple opportunities for economic development as anticipated by the 2016 Cheshire Plan of Conservation and Development. The effective date of this is November 13th, 2021 at 12:01 a.m.
Anyone? Move by Mr. Talley, second by Mr. Bowman. Any discussion on this motion? Mr. Talley.
Yeah, it's like I say, we talked about this a lot. We talked about this before we had a public hearing, to see if this was something that we really wanted to do. We talked about it a lot during the public hearing, and I think it makes sense. And I'm glad that we're making this move.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those, Mr. Stroll, sorry.
I just want to say where the world's going with all transportation and everything's being delivered to everybody's home, that this will make us a little bit more competitive in getting that. This will make us a little bit more competitive about getting people that want to do warehouses into the north end and in our industrial zones. And I think that this is the kind of thing we're looking to do. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimous. Everybody comfortable with voting on the Kansas Square application tonight? Okay. Can we hear the motions, please?
There are three applications, or three motions on this, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to read one at a time. First one is application for zone change at 29 Wallingford Road. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission find that the proposed zone change apply to the Special Development District overlay to 29 Wallingford Road is consistent with the purposes noted in section 45.1 of the Cheshire zoning regulations. Purpose within the SDD and the commercial chapter of the 2016 Plan of Conservation and Development, which recommends that the Cheshire zoning regulations provide sufficient flexibility to maintain the economic health of private properties within the center and for the consideration of amendments to the SDD regulations as necessary to achieve this flexibility, and hereby approve this application with an effective date of November 13th, 2021 at 12:01 a.m.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not voting on this. I believe the alternates.
Mr.
take
Selma?
one. Yeah, you wanted,
We already did it. We had it twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just had this, our second one, when you left the room. We had it at last meeting, and we had our second one.
Okay.
I need a move by Mr. Natali. You were out of this before, so you got to be out of this again.
yeah.
What you did is skip
Mr.
over
Stroll,
something.
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Stroll.
You skipped over the discussion. I didn't know you were taking that up. The discussion on Public Act, the accessory apartments.
I said that before. I went to chickens. I said that
I
before.
apologize.
Okay. All right, so I have a move by Mr. Natali, seconded by Mr. Bricado. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, no discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Mr. Dawson. So the motion carries 8-0-1. Next motion, please.
Approval of a special design project at 29 Wallingford Road and 166, 168, and 200 South Main Street. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission find the proposed special design project and regulations as shown on plans entitled Old Town Commons, 166, 168, and 200 South Main Street revised through October 22nd, 2021, are consistent with the requirements set forth in the Cheshire zoning regulations and with the purposes set forth in section 45.1, purpose of the Cheshire zoning regulations, and hereby approve this application.
Anyone? Move Mr. Natali, seconded by Mr. Tedesco.
Chairman, wait, Mr. Chairman. Did I say that? Yeah, it includes, well, the title of the map doesn't refer, Anthony, if I may, the title of the map doesn't have 29 Wallingford on it. I use the title of the map, which shows 29. The title of the map does not have 29 Wallingford in it, but the property of 29 Wallingford is shown on the map, which includes, as you gave in your testimony, two residential units in the house and the garage to be converted to office. So the plan doesn't have 29 Wallingford in the title. I gave the title of the plan, which shows 29 Wallingford, okay?
So the way you read it's right, is it correct? Okay, and you got Mr. Natali and Mr. Tedesco. Okay, any discussion on this motion? None? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone, Mr. Linder and Mr. Dawson, anyone else abstaining? The motion carries 7-1-1. He voted against. And the third,
Earth removal, filling, or regrading permit, Kensett Square LLC, South Main Street and Wallingford Road. The Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission find that the required waiver to grade within 50 feet of a property line is shown on plans entitled Old Town Commons, 166, 168, and 200 South Main Street, revised through October 22nd, 2021, are consistent with the requirements set forth in Cheshire zoning regulations, will not involve or create a substantial risk of damage to the abutting property, and hereby approve this application.
anyone? Moved by Mr. Tedesco, seconded by Mr. Bricado. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, motion carries 8-0-1 with Mr. Dawson abstaining. I'll just
Mr. Chairman?
do, yes, Mr. Linder.
Can I change my, I was confused. Can I change my last no vote to a yes vote?
I don't know. I've never had that happen.
Well, I was confused. I think you've had,
I think what you have to do is put the motion back on the floor. You're gonna have to put the motion back on the floor. We are talking about the earth removal?
No.
no, it was the one before that.
Special design
Special
project.
design
Mo-
district.
Yeah, it's a special design project, yeah.
Project, yeah, special design district project.
So it did pass. I mean, if you really want, yeah, you know, if you want us to do it over, I'd be
Fine. No,
happy
fine,
to.
fine. That's
Okay.
Fine.
All right, new business. We have subdivision application Pinnacle Land Development, Coleman Road.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, yeah, subdivision application, Pinnacle Land Development, Coleman Road, 11 lots. We recommend a public hearing date of November 8th. The
Cottage
fir-
food.
Well, the 1 and 2 are together.
Yep.
Yeah. That one on 1122, because that's got a referral on it, because it's a non-residential use in residential district, so special notice on that one. So it would be November 22nd.
Zone map change.
Good, what'd you want to know?
1 and 2 are both on the 8th, and then 3 is on the 22nd.
Yeah, the zone map change, we could open that on the 22nd.
22nd. Okay. And then our tabled application is
November
on the
22nd,
also. Okay, going back to discussion on Public Act 2129 accessory apartments. What do I do with it?
Briefly, I just let the commission know I had a discussion with the town attorney following your discussion on his memo of a couple of meetings ago, and he did confirm that if you want to make amendments to your accessory apartment regulations, you must first opt out of the state's legislative changes. And the opt-out requires you to have a public hearing, do an opt-out, refer it to the council, and then have the council react to that. You can make significant changes to your regs if you choose to, and you may like some of what the state has put in place, and you may not, but that's up to you. But in order to make the changes, you must first opt out of the state's statutory changes, so.
If we opted out to talk about changes and didn't want to make any changes, we could just accept it the way
Do that as
way it is
well.
too, right? So we're not locked
You could do
into.
that as well. So you can do anything you want. And the only reason I speak to it that way is because there was at least some, maybe we can do this and maybe we can do that with the regulations. I would at least ask you to look at what the state had in there to see if anything that you liked about it. And I'm not suggesting you should or shouldn't, that's really up to you, but in order to make the changes, you need to opt out, and then you can make changes to your regs. So,
So how does it, Mr. Bricato?
So I think I started that mess with, I asked if we could change what the state had proposed, and that was a no. We'd have to opt out and then make our own changes.
yeah, right.
I would not vote for this. I'd vote for the opt-out. I don't like 6D and 7B, where it seems like you can turn this into a business and build this accessory and then rent it out to whomever, turn it into a bed and breakfast, have it, kids just come and rent it out. I feel that's, in a residential area, that's not pertinent. We should not be doing that. That's just my feelings on this.
All right, so what, we basically want to decide whether, I mean, if we decide tonight, we still have to hold a public hearing before we do anything.
If you want, I
So-
mean, we can put a schedule together for the opt-out. I'm not
So-
sure as soon as we can notice it, but, we can do that, get that started for you for that,
Okay.
so.
Does everybody feel with that? What's everyone's intention? I mean, if we opt out and change some things or not change some things, we can always accept it afterwards too, right? So we're not doing anything wrong, except we need to get the ball rolling.
By opting out, you're not necessarily passing judgment on anything. You're saying is that if you want to look at your own regulations, you want to make any substantive amendments to those, you really need to opt out first. It's really, it's more procedural, less substantive.
Even
Okay?
have a discussion trying for anything.
We can talk all night long, but my point is that you can't make a
Can't do
motion.
anything.
You can't make a motion to amend your regulations without opting out of the state's, okay? That's the point. So what we can do then is, if you wish, is come up with a schedule for that And again, the opt-out just means that. It's not, you're not discussing necessarily options at the opt-out start of it. You can consider those later, but you need to opt out of those first, yeah.
What's the timing on the public hearing? Do we have a certain amount of time that we
Yeah,
have to give?
yeah,
And then
well, yeah.
there's a time that we have to make sure that we opt out before this just gets put into place.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a schedule together for you and put it in writing, and you'll see that. So, yeah, so we'll do that. And I would suggest, if you're gonna start that, you start it soon. And we do have time. I mean, it's possible you can have a public hearing on it first meeting in December. We could do that.
Or have a
So,
snowstorm and then we're out of luck and we have to do a special meeting or executive. So
While it's
if
snowing.
we all agree, I'd like to move that as soon as possible.
There's other things that you have to consider here already in line, so, and I don't know what kind of reaction we're gonna get to the app. I have no idea. So
We have till 2023, correct? January 1st, 2023.
I would not wait on the.
I'm not saying we
Yeah.
wait, but I mean, just to, it's, we have plenty of time. I'm not saying we should wait, but is everyone on, Mr. Tedesco?
Bill, I mean, opting out just preserves our options really, because it seems to me, because if after going through if we could opt out, discuss, and then decide, hey, we liked what the state did, and just bring it all back, right?
100% correct. You can do whatever you want with it. And that's why I advise you at least take a look at what's there. There may be some things that you like. There are some things, and we can talk more about that, but there are some things that might be useful to you. And we'll see. So,
Can we verify in this document? It says effective January 1st, 2022 for the new requirements. And then in the back, the opt-out process gives you a 1 year
yeah,
later.
I'll verify that. So I'll check it out. So,
That's my concern.
Yeah,
'cause
but
if
I-
we go by if there's a typo and it's a 22nd,
Yeah.
we're time constrained.
I'll wait. I'm going to suggest to you that we start it soon anyway. So, and you may
Was that
not
your-
have to have a
same
public
thing?
hearing that continues and
Was that
continues.
yours?
You can have one public hearing.
Same thing.
Remember, if it doesn't hurt you to opt out if you want to take a look at your regulations. All you're doing, because you got to refer to the council anyway, and I don't know how long that process will take, who knows? But at least you can have done your part of it and referred it out to them. So,
All right, so we're going to start the process of opting out, and then
I would agree.
The
Does
discussion.
everybody else?
Okay.
Is that a motion to start that process?
motion, I would do it. So,
I'm sorry, I can't hear. Oh, do you want to make the announcement? I guess the meeting Wednesday has been postponed to
we
a
did
later
get a
date.
notice today. You're all going to get an email. The Wednesday meeting's been postponed. So,
No one knows why, it's just been
Yeah.
postponed, so.
so.
All right, anything else to come before us tonight?
Just one
Oh.
Sure.
So Bill, I know that was postponed, but can we look to push to get that rescheduled ASAP?
We'll talk to them. You, listen, feel free on your own to communicate to the town manager's office about doing that. We do that, but I mean, I can't deliver the urgency any more than you can, so.
Well, is it a requirement that we go through the town council if we can't get this meeting scheduled because we've been looking for it since June?
No, I don't think so. Well, we could do it on our own. It's just, we all thought when we talked to town attorney, it might be good to put a bunch
Yeah.
of people together and instead of just us making a decision.
I think it's a great idea to get everybody together, but again, we've been looking for this meeting since June, so I'd like to get it scheduled in stone.
All right, we don't
Let
know what
them know,
happened. It wasn't
so-
us that did anything. It
No.
just came from up, hired us and.
Today it came out.
No
I
one
got-
knows,
I got an email
so-
today at like 3:45 or something like that. Jocelyn's going to forward it to you tomorrow, so. Yeah, so we all
Okay,
got it this afternoon.
If there's nothing else, entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Dawson, seconded by Mr. Caderas. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.